Hey, so Mutant Mayhem came out a few weeks ago, and I want to review it. Roll title card. So heads up, this review is gonna be a bit more rambly and unscripted. I mean, technically all my videos are unscripted, but this one more so because I'm working on a lot of projects right now, and I kind of just wanted to get this review out because I wanted to talk about this movie, but I don't have too much I want to say about it on the negative or positive side. So this review is going to be a little bit shorter than usual and probably a bit more rambly and unscripted. I already said that. You see what I mean? Also, college just started, so that's fun. Yeah. So minimum 3 videos I'm working on right now, plus college. It's a lot, so just enjoy this short little goofy review. I'm judging this movie on 4 major aspects, which are the animation, the acting, the writing, and the characters. Now you think writing and characters go hand in hand, but there's some subtleties that I really am going to get into a bit later when I actually go over them, so just buckle in, it'll make sense later. So let's start with animation. You can probably tell from the trailers and stuff that this movie is definitely going for the Spider-Verse art style, where the base of the characters are like 3D rigs with 2D cell shading over them. And we've seen this style work before. Like the Spider-Verse movies are really popular. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is just an all-around banger. That one Christmas movie on Netflix also does it. I can't remember the name right now. Arcane and Nimona are 2 really big movies that use that art style. Let me just say, Spider-Verse, this movie is not. Like, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it definitely doesn't capture that. It definitely doesn't capture that style and use it to the best of its ability. To be honest, the turtles themselves all look really good. I really love their designs, specifically like the combination between the old and the new. Like, yeah, there's some edgy aspects of it that kind of harken back to the 06 and 2012 days, but I like that they have the exaggerated noses of the 1986 cartoon. Also, I'm a big fan of like their initials being on their belts. I think that's a cool little design choice. A lot of people don't like it, but I think it looks pretty cool. At least it's pretty adorable. I also like that each of the characters have their own little quirks here and there, like Donnie's anime obsession, Mikey's braces, and Raph being just a bit chunkier than the other 2. I think that's why a lot of people liked Rise, but I never really actually watched Rise. I grew up on 2012. I should probably give Rise a chance. Let me know if you guys want to see that in the comments below. But yeah, I have no problem with the turtles themselves. They're all done really well, and their designs are pretty cool and unique. Another character I like a lot is Splinter. Like, I think his design works really well. Specifically young Splinter, I think he's pretty funny. He really gives off the vibe of like a dad just trying his best, specifically with the hairstyle. I just think it really works. Also, each of the mutants are done really well, like Mondo, Gecko, and the manatee one that Post Malone plays. I forget his name, but they all have cool and goofy designs that are pretty funny. Also, Superfly, I like his design with the strange mouth and one small arm and one big arm. It's pretty cool and really speaks to the mutant aspect of it. This movie does the whole mutant part really well, which makes sense because Mutant Mayhem. One thing that did bug me about the animation was shot composition, specifically when it comes to colors and backgrounds competing with the characters in the foreground. Like, there were a couple scenes when it was like so awash with the primary color that it just made it hard to pick out the main cast that you're supposed to be focusing on. Like when the turtles meet up with Superfly in the bowling alley is backlit with a heavy blue, and since a lot of the mutants are blue, it kind of just makes it hard for you to focus in on the characters that you're supposed to be paying attention to. The same thing happens near the end of the movie when they're trying to stop Superfly from turning everybody into mutants. Everything's really awash with green, and naturally the turtles are green, so it's hard to really focus in and narrow on what you're supposed to be looking at. Not to mention everything just a little bit over detailed. I think that's because the animators use a lot of cell shading, and the issue with that is when the background is just heavily cell shaded as the characters in the foreground, again, it makes it hard to focus on one thing when you're focusing on everything. That's kind of why I feel like that's kind of why Spider-Verse tends to render out its background so much with simple shapes, because it makes it easier to focus on the characters in the foreground, which have more complex shapes. One more thing that really bugged me was the design of the humans in this movie. I kind of get what they were going for with the 1990s ugly aesthetic, kind of like Beavis and Butthead or Rugrats and stuff like that, or Pinky and the Brain, to where the characters are like intentionally ugly, but it just doesn't really work for me when it comes to the humans in this movie. Like, the human designs are just really gross and hard to look at. Like, I don't think there's a single human character that I actually think is designed well. Like, even the main bad guy, her like face is kind of messed up. Like, it's askew. I bet you it has something to do with like maybe Baxter Stockman or her backstory, but it just kind of threw me off the first time I saw it. Like, her chin is literally at like an incline, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like, it just looks weird. But again, I don't hate the animation. I think it's done really well. And one exception to the rule about the humans is I think April's design is actually pretty good. Like it's not great, but it's easier to look at than the other humans, which just look really freaking bizarre. But besides that, pretty much everything in this movie on an animation front is pretty good. Like, I don't mind the fight scenes, they're done really well. Facial animations for, like I said, the mutant characters draw really well. The last thing about the animation that did really bug me though was Superfly's second transformation phase. I just feel like it didn't work that well. It didn't feel iconic to me. It just kind of looked like a bunch of stuff thrown together, which, I mean, it was, but to be fair, it just didn't look great for me. But all in all, the animation was pretty good. It just wasn't Spider-Verse good. But then again, what is? Well, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is pretty close, but we're not gonna talk about that here because that's just a review of its own. Anyway, moving on. Point is, I like the overall structure of this story. I just wish Superfly's motivations were a bit better. Also feels like the antagonists kind of turn on a dime. Like, they spend pretty much their entire lives hating humans, and then the turtles are like, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't hate humans. And then all of a sudden the antagonists are like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't hate humans. Maybe they're like totally cool, dog. It just felt kind of came out of left field. But the scene where they betray Superfly is pretty good. Like, you can tell that he seems genuinely hurt. The motivation changing just feels very like sudden, out of nowhere. But besides that, I think the story works as a whole. Like, the idea works pretty well. And honestly, it's pretty relatable. Well, as relatable as mutants wanting to be real people because they're mutated animals can be. Anyway, moving on. I'm kind of clumping acting and characters together because one drives the other pretty well. And most people know these characters pretty well already, so I'm not going to dive too deep into what they should be. I'm going to spend more time talking about how this movie interprets each character on their own. But the four turtles are pretty well acted. One exception being the guy who plays Mikey. I did some deep dive into like his experience, and he's definitely the least experienced out of the three turtles, which kind of makes sense. Like, I wouldn't say his performance is bad. I would say that maybe he could have used another take or two, maybe some extra direction. I just kind of felt like all of his lines were first or second takes. They just maybe needed some more time in the oven. Nicholas Cantu as Leo, he was gonna knock it out of the park regardless. Like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to see this movie just because I'm such a big Gumball fan. And for those of you who didn't know, Nicholas Cantu played Gumball, and I think the later seasons, he was like the third actor to play Gumball. Anyway, he knocked Leo out of the park, and he really got the goofy demeanor they were going for. However, Raphael's voice actor does pretty well, but we don't hear enough of him. I really wish we got to hear some more Raph in this movie because his actor does him really well. And every line that he did get, he was really funny. Like, I genuinely laughed out loud at a few of his scenes. His Raph is just so unhinged and angry, but not in like the douchey, mean way, like he's usually interpreted as. More of just like an energetic teenager with a lot of like rage and not knowing what to do with it. He wants to hurt people because he thinks that it's fun. He likes fighting because he thinks that it's fun. Not so much because he wants to just crack heads to crack heads. He just wants to crack heads because it's fun and he has a lot of energy to get out. I generally found his scenes enjoyable. I just, again, wish we got some more of him because he doesn't talk as much as I think he should, and it made me sad. Ironically, the star of the turtles was a turtle that I don't usually like that much, which is Donatello. Donnie's voice actor really hit the character out of the park. I feel like that is kind of obvious considering that, like, when this movie was first revealed, that Donnie's scream was like a pretty big meme. But his character's really good in this one. He's snarky at just the right times. He's making jokes. He's pretty funny. Not to the degree that, like, we're used to Mikey making jokes. Like, he's a lot more sarcastic and goofy. But this is definitely Donatello the way we know him. Like, he's definitely snarky and goofy. Which can't be said for the other three because Leo is definitely not the Leonardo we're used to knowing. Like, he's not confident and stoic. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a perfect leader yet. He's definitely Leo before Leo becomes the leader, because he's Leo, the leader. I'm so funny. And again, Mikey isn't as big a jokester in this one. Yeah, he's funny and goofy, but he doesn't like crack jokes mid-fight, which like he usually does. Also, he didn't ride a skateboard this entire movie. Like, he literally had one in his hands, and there's another character that skates in the movie, but Mikey never rides a skateboard. It genuinely infuriated me that Mikey didn't at least like pop an ollie or something, and he had the opportunity to so many times. Also, he only said cowabunga once. And again, that's not a slide of the actor or the director or whoever. It's just me in my headcanon. I associate Mikey with skateboarding. I wish he would have gotten to ride a skateboard, and he didn't. Fingers crossed for Mutant Mayhem 2. We'll see. It's there. And Leo, I guess his arc is okay, but everybody just kind of pales in comparison to Splinter, who starts the movie as this kind of scared character that just doesn't want to leave the sewer and generally just fearful of humanity. But eventually he learns to trust humans and people in general in the scene because they all relate to his issue. He's not a rat or a mutant. He's somebody who wants to save his children from dying. And it works really well as the people of New York kind of crowd around him and offer him help, and you really see that he's changed. Same thing when he lets the boys go to save the mutants in the world from Superfly. He really learns to trust his sons to be the heroes he knows they can be, which I think is a pretty good arc, and honestly is just fun to watch on screen. But again, like I said, Jackie Chan carries this movie. Also, Ice Cube as Superfly, really fun to watch. He would also kind of steal the scenes when he was there. Like, his delivery is really funny, especially when Superfly goes to his second form, which is just a bunch of like hodgepodge creatures all stuffed together. Well, honestly, I didn't like the design of that creature, but hearing Ice Cube's little jabs with the turtles is pretty funny. Like, he would just randomly shout random stuff at the top of his lungs in the middle of the city center, and I couldn't help but laugh a few times because they were just so goofy and out of pocket. Post Malone as the weird Rayman dude, I forget his name, was pretty funny. He has a cool bit where he like sings his name constantly. Superfly's like, no, stop doing that, don't sing your name, and it's funny. Paul Rudd as Mongo Gecko, I really didn't even know it was him, to be honest. Like, that could have been who fucking knows what, and I would have been like, oh, that's Paul Rudd, okay, that's cool, I guess. John Cena and Seth Rogen as Bebop and Rocksteady works surprisingly well. I do wish they would have gotten more lines, but again, the mutants aren't villains in this one. They become part of the Turtles' surrogate family, so I don't know how they could have given them more lines without making it feel bogged down. But John Cena as a voice-modulated Bebop was pretty funny to watch. And to be fair, I think John Cena deserves a bit more credit for his acting in general. Maybe I should do a Peacemaker retrospective review. Did you guys watch that? All two of you? Ayo Edebiri as April. I feel like April as a character was just really good in this movie. Like, a lot of the time, she kind of just played second fiddle to the Turtles. In 2012, she was pretty important, but in this one, she's also pretty important, but not as important as the Turtles. Her arc happens mostly in the background, which I think it should, but when she finally does arc out, it feels satisfying and really well earned. Especially considering all the work the character did throughout the movie to kind of get her spot. It just feels more earned than most strong female characters. Also, it was nice seeing a female character in a movie actually go through trouble and not be perfect out the gate. Like, April makes mistakes and she really isn't sure of herself at first and needs help, and I feel like that's really a lot more satisfying to watch than a character that's just perfect right off the bat. Like, she has to learn how to be a good reporter and how to actually deliver a story with confidence, and I feel like that's a really good way to write a character as opposed to everybody's just keeping you down because you're a woman. Don't worry, you're doing great, you're a girl boss. Like, I feel like a lesser writer would have just had her be a great reporter already, but some dude in the film club told her that she was a bad writer, so she's booted out. It just felt like a good and natural arc. I think kind of helps showing that April was bullied in school and kind of had to overcome that to become the good reporter that she is. It just makes her character feel a lot more natural and have a good progression. I'd say she's genuinely one of the better characters in this movie, and I appreciate that they gave her some time to arc out, even if it was in the background of the Turtles' whole main A-plot story. Also, again, April is wonderfully... Also, she's just really well voice acted too, which isn't a surprise because her actor is in The Bear, and Sydney is probably one of my favorite characters in The Bear. You guys should watch The Bear, just saying. So I'm happy she got in this movie too, because it just works. It just works. Insert Todd Howard clip here. So all in all, Mutant Mayhem was a good movie. I liked it a lot. It was a fun watch. I enjoyed it both as a Turtle fan and just a fan of animation. Like I said before, some of the shots bug me a little bit, but all in all, I am happy that movies are kind of adopting the over-the-top Spider-Verse art style. I feel like it's going to be the next big thing, even though it honestly already is. If you haven't seen Mutant Mayhem yet, give it a watch. It's really worth a good hour and a half of your time. I saw it on my birthday, and it was a pretty good 18-year-old gift, even though it was a kid's movie. But honestly, it was just fun to watch. Again, sorry if this video didn't feel as scripted or polished as you're used to, but I am working on a lot of projects right now and good old homework because college started back up. But I should have 2 pretty decent videos coming up in the next few weeks. Maybe go ahead, watch some other stuff on my channel, and check back for more. Yeah. Roll end card.
Hands behind your back, dude! This cheese is so hot, it's inside my mask! Stop resisting! I'm not! I can't even see! Stop resisting! It's making the cheese hotter! He was coming at me. Everyone saw him coming at me, right?
Yeah, dude. Totally.